and fathers, daughters, sons arise. Then children of the world will rise. Oh, yeah. When mothers, brothers, sisters rise, and fathers, daughters, sons arise, then children of the world will rise. When mothers, brothers, sisters rise, and fathers, daughters, sons arise, the children of the world will rise. Mothers, brothers, sisters rise, fathers, daughters, sons arise, children of the world will rise. Oh, just a little rise. Let's take it to the skies. We rise, we rise, oh, we rise, yeah. Mothers, brothers, sisters rise, fathers, daughters, sons arise, children of the world will rise. You got to rise. Mothers, brothers, sisters rise, fathers, daughters, sons arise, children of the world will rise. Come on. When mothers, brothers, sisters rise, and fathers, daughters, sons arise, the children of the world will rise. When mothers, brothers, sisters rise, fathers, daughters, sons arise, children of the world will rise. We rise.
Hello. Hello and welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're so honored and delighted. Becky, next slide, please. We're still letting people in. Next slide, please, Becky. Oops, it's coming. There we are. That was Gemma Boulos with the Million Voice Choir. And she she's a good friend, but at one point, the We Rise was the anthem for the year at the United Nations. So tonight, today, this morning, wherever you are, we are rising. We are rising into badass peace building. We're so honored and delighted that you've joined us. So welcome to CSW69 and this particular event. I'm Tazkiah Gabriel from Pathways to Peace, and I'm here with my beloved peace brother, David Wick, who is the president of Pathways to Peace, and with you. So this is a convening. What that means is we really want to get you engaged in this conversation. It's an exploration. And at Pathways to Peace, we were called into badass peace building. It's time. And we felt we needed to push past whatever might have been holding us back, that the world is counting on us. And so I hope badass peace building brings a smile to your face. It certainly does for us. So before we kind of begin to get you engaged, and for me to bring up David, we're going to talk just a little bit about Pathways to Peace. We're going to talk a little bit about badass peace building, some ideas that we have to really prompt your own thinking. And then we'll go into some breakout groups with some pretty deep questions. And then we'll bring you all together to have a group-wide discussion about badass peace building. So a little about Pathways to Peace. I think most of you, I see good friends in the room. And so you know us, but for those who may not know us, Pathways to Peace is a UN designated peace messenger organization in consultation with ECOSOC and the Department of Global Communications. We've been about the work of peace building for over 40 years. And our work is really about innovation, collaboration, and movement building, expanding unity of consciousness and bringing that consciousness on the ground through programs and projects that are going to make a difference in the world, bringing peace and eliminating barriers to peace. Some of that work has been with the UN, the International Day of Peace, the Declaration and Program of Action for a Culture of Peace, and a lot of it is beyond the United Nations in other areas of the globe. So that's who we are. That's what we care about. And now I'm going to turn it over to David.
Well, great. I'm delighted to be here with you and everyone. Thank you for coming together on this Thursday, wherever you are. And it is incredible that we have this reach, that we can talk to each other. I was on a call earlier today with people in UK, India, Africa, and US, and just that we could do this. And coming together is like, why we do this, focusing on badass peace building. And it was originated from one of our Pathways to Peace Board of Directors meetings, and talking about what's happening in the world and what's taking place. And one of our directors said, yeah, it really feels like what's needed is badass peace building. And thing, what we're talking about is the inspiration of this energy. And why is that? Why is it now? Well, I don't need to go into any detail about what's happening in our world, what's happening in this country. And it's a lot is really disturbing. And many of people also see this as in the overarching long-term arch of our evolution, of humanity's evolution. We're in one of those times when there's a lot of breakdown, but it's also building. There's an incredible amount of energy, of coming together, of unity. It is all ultimately about unity coming together right now. And it's really what is in our hearts. This is it. This is the time. It's time to break through. It's time to move forward with all of us. There's no time to sit on the park bench. So that's what this is about, is how do we do this? And this is a exploration together. What does this mean? What does this look like for us? And so one of the things I wrote down was badass peace building refers to an innovative, bold, and unapologetic action orientation towards fostering peace. Unapologetic, strong, stepping in, despite the language that may, well, we'll talk about the languaging here too. So welcome everybody. Welcome to this exploration. And it's all for all of us stepping forward. Everybody has a role. Everyone has a responsibility in terms of how we live peace and peace building in our own lives and how we bring it out into the world. So thank you very much, Tezekiah.
Yes, so we're going to begin by just getting from you, and we'll ask you to put your responses to this question in the chat. So what comes to mind for you when you hear the term badass peace building? And just put your responses in the chat. And I will put that question in the chat as well. But what comes to mind for you? What's your reaction?
What's your first reaction?
Courage, unafraid. Ooh, I love those.
That's really in your heart. What really is the first thing that comes to mind?
Ooh, gosh, these are so good, David.
Did you read any of them?
Yes. let me get the question in there. They're so good. I got into the responses, but I guess everyone has them.
Yeah.
So, ooh, we've got some courage, unafraid, advocating for human rights for all, even and especially when it goes against the status quo. Very assertive, not passive action. A radical commitment to peace. Ooh, so good. Unabashed love, compassion, and listening. Being tough and peaceful at the same time. Yes, yes. So, courageous, innovative, persistent. Charles said that I am badass. Tuskai is badass. I love that. Makes me smile, but my parents taught me not to swear, and that's badass. Oh, these are just fantastic. About time, liberals shy away from discomfort and verbal conflict. In my heart is to buckle up, Buttercup. Get informed regarding fighting truth, decay, bold messaging, unconditional love, empathy. These are so great. You know,
wonderful.
David, we could move right into discussion, I think.
I know. That's absolutely, and it is also about stepping into being uncomfortable, the discomfort, because it's out of our comfort zone.
Yes.
It's really not being mean, having compassion, but it's being smart, and it's having the energy of our convictions.
Yes. So, Becky, next slide. Some thoughts and considerations that we're putting on the table, not that you need it, but just so you have a sense of where we're coming from. And maybe it'll even prompt more of your thinking. We'll see. Next slide. Gosh, I love this group.
It's great. So here's a couple of things just to consider as we're moving into this. Again, this is an exploration and this is a co-creation, because we're all going to move forward with this energy, with these, again, it's working with thoughts and thought form. So one is that is challenging the status quo. And I would say, generally speaking, we all move into and co-create a status quo, but it's the evolution of it. The evolution means change, obviously, and sometimes transformation. So changing and challenging the status quo, being alive with action and impact. It's not just blind action. And actually, we work with David Gershon with the Peace on Earth by 2030, who talks about second order change, which is another level of change, not just taking action, but it's a level of change where people want to move forward, who are inspired from their heart to make the changes. Requires personal responsibility and growth. Absolutely. I mean, it's really accepting that responsibility. It's not a shit, finger scolding. It's like stepping into that responsibility and saying, yeah, I might be uncomfortable. Yeah. And there's growth for all of us. Most effective with collaboration and innovation. And here we are. We're here to share, to collaborate, and have some new thinking, new possibilities. Who knows what's going to come from our time today? And it relies on future visioning, which means having a inkling of where are we evolving to? What do we want to co-create? The Pathway Peace has worked for years with the UN focus on the culture of peace. The culture of peace is the big picture, the overarch. And what does that look like? And what does it look like to each of us as we move forward? So that's having future visioning. So there's Gaia.
Yes, I have to say that Charles has given us BADASS as an acronym: bodacious action, directed awareness, service, and stewardship. That's great. Next slide, Becky.
Put that on a slide.
Yes, exactly. So Badass is also audacious, unapologetic, and courageous. And I have to say, as I have been meditating on badass peace building, one question that comes up for me, and of course, we can't have it be a gross generalization, but I wonder if there are gender issues around badass peace building. And so it also is about love and a light heart. You know, when we talk about badass peace building, it's that fiery, pure heart of love that drives it. And I always say when there are difficult things to do, come onto the table or into the table with a light heart. It just allows us to transcend some of those differences. It really takes a willingness, and then that willingness to make a choice for badass peace building. We know for many of us that it will take some risk, and probably for all of us, especially as our socioeconomic, political environment gets even more dangerous, I'll say. It takes risk. It takes stepping out of your comfort zone. It means managing your fear. One of the messages I've been called to bring in just about everything that I speak to these days is that we cannot afford to be in our fear, that all of us need to lift our vibration, stay in that higher frequency. The planet needs our light. And so it's particularly important to manage our fear. Do we dip into it? Probably, but use your practices to be able to manage that fear because we need it. We need your light. It means standing in your own power and speaking your own truth. And so always, always, always standing in our own power and speaking our own truth. For me, it means authenticity, that, you know, as a woman and a peace builder, I have lots of social programming about not being badass, as Tammy said in the chat. And so there might be old wounds that need to be healed. There certainly might be old beliefs that need to be shifted to be able to be our true selves. And our true selves can deliver the message of peace in a badass way. So it may take some of that healing. And lastly, self-care, which for me means daily practice to stay in that higher vibration, to have my energy, my inner peace fortified so that I can move forward with the badass message of peace. It also means protecting your peace, however that looks to you. Certainly that's there. And we could have long lists, longer even than what you've currently given us. And hopefully we'll hear even more from you as we move forward. So next slide, Becky and David, I think it, oh no, this is mine. So while we are being badass, just as I think Joni said in the chat, we still recognize that our badass selves still are motivated by love, by compassion, by service, by peace, and all the things that are the roots of our peace building, the values of our peace building. So we don't leave those things behind. Instead, we balance those with our assertive power and articulation of our messages. And now, Becky, next slide. So, David?
So what does badass peace building mean to you? I think that we've identified quite a few things here. And anything further that you'd like to add in after this brief conversation here, to put it into the chat. Again, opening our awareness, opening our hearts, opening our beings to the energy What is this energy? What does it feel like? Please put that into the chat further now, because we're just moving deeper into this collective experience. What does it mean in badass peace, whatever language you want to use? But it's the energetic, it's the openness, the courage, the strength, the knowing.
Yeah. And what does it really mean to you when you look at your work through the lens of badass peace building? Does anything change? Is there any kind of a shift? And we'll be going briefly into our groups.
Right. So again, is how does this apply to our lives? We're all doing amazing things and wonderful things in our own lives. And that's where it really lands, is how do we apply this? How does this live with us in our daily life, personally, as well as reaching out?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Wow.
Anything to bring out and share there, Hezekiah?
Yes. Just Rita talking about, it feels edgy. I agree. And she has a link in there about badass. Tammy says, time to play from a bigger playing field. Yay. Stop playing small to be empowered. Effective listening, consistency, keeping my word, listening to others to create a collaborative vision that speaks to a broad community. The founding mothers movement, of course, from our dear Laura. I love the work that occurs there. Feels like badass to me. And Gilda, increasing peace and safety in our communities and solidarity. Yeah,
There's also about being the voice for others who cannot speak out.
absolutely. Oh, and I love Peter's gloves are off and hyper focused on tangible outcomes. Yes. Okay,
Right.
let's move.
Let's
Next
go
slide.
ahead.
Next slide.
Great. So here's what we're going to be doing, is moving into the smaller groups so we can have, we really want all of us to have a conversation, sharing, exploring, understanding more deeply. So to, again, briefly introduce yourself, name somebody who could record, feedback about the group's discussion, and be ready to share the 1 to 3 key highlights, insights that you've had, the ahas. So the questions for this first go round is, where do you see traditional peace building falling apart? How can, pardon me?
Falling
Far
short.
short. Well, far too short. Right. And how can we push the boundaries? Second, what unconventional or radical tactics do you think could be effective in peace building? Peace building can take many different forms. Again, with the values that Hezekiah mentioned earlier, the higher values, but being strong and bold about it.
And so,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, David. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I just wanted to break for a moment and say, bless you, Becky Suzik, Reverend Becky Suzik, who is providing the technical support. And she's also going to be operating the breakout rooms for us. And so I think we're going to try to do maybe 3 triads, but Becky will figure out the best process. And you'll have the questions here they're in the chat now. You can see them there, and we'll also broadcast them into the room. But take a look at those questions and be ready to come back, and we're going to have some discussion. Then we'll mix you up, put you in a different breakout room with different folks, have you come back, have some discussion. And then as a full group, we're going to do a full group dialogue. So hang in there with us. It's going to become very fun and very exciting. So go ahead, Becky.
And
go
keep in
David.
mind that this is a collaboration. This is a co-creation. And what we're creating here lives on and will be built upon all the more. So thank you for participating.
Yeah,
We're going to be in breakouts for 20 minutes. Is that right?
yes.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to open up the rooms. Here we go. And you'll be flying to your rooms.
Fly, fly. So Becky, David and I got, yes, we need to put Lucy, there we go. There we go. And Lucy gets to go into a room as well.
There we go. Everyone's been moved
Perfect.
now.
I'm
So I'm
gonna
going to stop the
pause.
screen share and I'm going to put them in the chat for everybody.
Thank you. And we're going to pause the recording.
You
And
have it on your end. You can pause.
yes, I'm doing that.
Emily and Elsa, who've just